All right, so let's get started. Reminder to fools that you can put your questions in Backstage Pass on Slido. So really excited to talk with you. The team before was just asking a little bit about Vacasa. As I understand it, you're a vacation rental management platform. You've got over 30,000 homes in North America, Belize and Costa Rica, and you're providing some of the inventory to the biggies like Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo. Is that a sort of an assessment of what Vacasa does?
That's a great summary.
Okay,
We are an end-to-end platform that does all the work necessary for a homeowner to decide to start to rent out their home. They basically book the nights they want to use, and we write them a check for the nights that we sell.
And you're going public via SPAC with TPG Pace Solutions, right? And that's ticker TPGS?
That's correct.
Well, let's get into talking about your Q2 results from last week. So one of the things that I've been tracking as someone interested in real estate is sort of the return of people wanting to go on vacation. Last summer, we saw a little bit of that road trip Airbnb energy. This year just seemed crazy from what I saw and anecdotal evidence. Huge year or huge quarter for you. Gross booking value up 247% to 514 million. Your revenue was up 188% to 240 million. What's driving that? Is it just the pent-up demand, or are there other factors here?
Sure. Well, a couple things. We definitely are operating with the hottest product in travel right now.
True.
People want vacation home rentals in rural destinations where we operate. So we have the perfect product for the current environment, and really there's an overall share shift by guests in terms of preference. And it's not something that just started during the pandemic. It started, just think about it this way. In 2010, only 10% of people stayed in a vacation rental. By 2019, it was up to 30%. And then over this pandemic period, it's just accelerated on top of that. And so that trend is our friend. The decision for homeowners to start to rent out their homes was 30% back in 2010, 60% want to do it in 2019, and again, further accelerated during the pandemic. So these are two macro trends that are just really playing well into our strengths as a business model and the category that we're operating in.
Let's talk a little bit about your business model. Looks like your gross booking value per night, it's a little higher than some other companies. Do you see you're more of the luxury vacationer, right? Is that your target market?
No, not at all. Actually, it's hard to do an apples to apples GBV comparison because you're looking at only whole homes for us. And in other sites, you're looking at, a room in somebody's condo. And so it gets blended quite a bit. If you do an apples to apples filter on it, you'll see that we're actually right in line in the destinations we are with the major booking sites, GBVs as well. So it's really less about trying to be the premium. We actually are everything from value to luxury and very representative of every destination that we're in. Because that's what we believe we can do, and it's the market opportunity ahead of us.
Interesting. And in terms of geography, you're focused mostly on vacation destinations as opposed to urban rentals?
That's right. I think it's probably 80% of our homes are outside of sort of urban settings and more rural destinations, beach, all the things that you would assume, lakes, ski vacations, that's our sweet spot.
And so that's what you plan to do going forward. You consider the vacation rental to be where you're focused as opposed to other types of business travel or things like that.
Yeah, we're still in the travel, the leisure travel, vacation rental. But it's interesting though, Deidre, like there's a big shift in terms of what does that mean now?
Sure.
Because that's again another friend for us, because remote work opened up a whole new category of usage for vacation rentals that didn't exist before. And we're finding that trend really, for example, last fall, we didn't have a shoulder season. We normally would have a down season in the fourth quarter in the fall. And we just blew right past that shoulder season because people had the ability to do remote work. Kids were remote schooling. And all of that led to expanded use cases. Some of that, I think, is here to stay. I mean, if you think about the remote work aspect of it, I think that's going to free people up to do more vacations. And when they do those, they're going to do them with their family, which again fits really well into vacation rentals versus hotels.
That's a really good point. And another use case that I've been thinking about a lot too is company retreats, not just the big retreats, which would take over a hotel, but some of the smaller retreats. I'm seeing that as an aspect of remote work. Some of the hotel operators have talked about that. Seems like that is also happening on the house front as well.
I think that's exactly right. There's more use cases than we're going to have a big family vacation at the beach this year. It's expanded, and the great thing about vacation rentals is I think people just really like the variety that they can get. It's not really cookie cutter. Everything is unique. But I know for sure they all want a consistent experience. I mean, that's kind of the key to it is how can you overlay a really consistent guest experience with a variety of different property types. That's the challenge and yet the opportunity when you apply technology as your platform in order to be able to do that.
So what are you seeing? Are you seeing anything in terms of length of stay changing? One of the things Airbnb has talked about is the increase in that 28-day stay. More and more, remote work is sort of leading to that. Has that been a factor for you?
Yeah, we're seeing that our length of stay is up this year versus last year as well. We look at it more as sort of the week plus long trips versus the 2 or 3 night trips. And that definitely is up year over year. We always had a reasonable amount of that. Again, given our property types, people would go and camp it at the beach for a week, or a ski trip would be typically a week or plus. And so we already had a healthy mix of that versus maybe some others where people would go into a city for just 2 nights or 1 night. So there's a little bit difference in that regard. But we're absolutely seeing an extension of our length of stay.
Interesting. So with regard to remote work, are you seeing more of a demand for better Wi-Fi or having a home office in the property or things like that to kind of facilitate that?
Well, I think Wi-Fi has just been almost like oxygen for people for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I think it's just been table stakes for anybody renting anything. If you're on a plane, you need to have Wi-Fi, right? We always have to be connected. So that's been sort of a foundational requirement for people. But I think what's interesting is that you'll see a little bit larger homes getting booked because there'll be a preference to have 2 bedrooms, but another room where mom can cut off to do some work and so get a break from the vacation part and get some work done as they're doing the remote work.
So you're supplying inventory to all of these platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com. What exactly is your relationship with the platforms?
Really strong partners. If you think about our primary focus is on the supply side of the equation.
Right.
Our job is to create as much available nights that we can sell directly on our site, but also the partners of ours, Airbnb, Booking, Vrbo, 1,000 others. That's our job, is to create inventory, create supply. And in order to do that, we market on our own site. We have about 35% come directly to Vacasa, but 65% go through our channel partners as well. And interesting is it's not only that we are a meaningful quantity of listings in our top markets. We can be 50+% of the listings on these sites for whole homes. But it's really about the type of availability that we bring and the way that we use technology to sell through those nights. We basically have true yield optimization technology. Think about what airlines use and really the sophisticated major hotel chains. We've brought all of that technology and data science and machine learning to vacation rentals, which is new. The industry just didn't have that level of sophistication before Vacasa. And what that does from a partner's perspective, our distribution partners, is we create more availability per listing. And they're all desperate for supply. If you think about it, like just read their quarterly earnings, supply. We need more supply. If we had more supply, then we could grow faster because there's so much demand. It's really supply that's the constraint component at this point. And we actually, one last thing, and I'll be quiet, but our quality of the reviews and the guest experiences is also much greater than people that are non-Vacasa listings, because we have the professional management and we control that environment more. We're able to deliver better, more consistent experiences. The result is a positive for the brand that started the booking, right? If you had a bad experience, you blame the people you started with, and not necessarily Vacasa. So it's important that we provide really high quality service, and there's the other factor that we outperform the rest of the industry. So in both factors, we're really important and valued partners, and they're important and valued partners for us.
Interesting. So speaking to that supply side, how do you go about getting more supply? And is there any concern of risk about having too much supply and what that could mean when demand starts shifting?
I definitely don't have a concern of having too much supply. I think we're going to be in this situation of demand and supply imbalance, where supply is the constraint factor for a long time, because of the trends that we just discussed. The guest preference is increasingly going towards vacation rentals, away from traditional accommodations. It's growing at 2 times the rate of other categories within travel, and yet there's just not enough hosts or homeowners that have opted in to renting out their home. But that's where we come in too. If you think, just an interesting stat for you, over 20% of the homes that we add to our platform, those homeowners had never rented before. They're brand new to renting. And the reason why is it's kind of a pain in the butt to rent your house. There's a lot of complexity associated with it. I mean, do you really want to get the call at 2 a.m. in the morning that the heater's not working at the ski cabin, right? We handle all of that for you, and we just make it very seamless. So we're introducing new supply by new renters coming online.
Well, that's really interesting. So is that mostly second homeowners? And
That's
how
right.
do you reach these people and convince them that they should be doing this?
That's right. It is second home owners that none of our properties people live in the home and also rent it out. It's they'll use it for themselves as a getaway, but they basically book it just like a guest would book it, and then we take care of everything else for them necessary to rent it out. And how we reach them is because of our technology platform, we have a significant competitive data advantage. We know exactly which properties will perform and how they will perform because we have so many others in that exact geography. We can accurately pinpoint how much revenue a person should expect to make and how much profit ultimately that customer will be to the business as well. So we use that in a very sophisticated predictive scoring model, and we couple that with our direct response marketing and a direct sales force to add properties to the platform.
And for these new owners that are just trying this out, do they put their property on for a long period of time, or do they just maybe try out a week or two, see how it goes, see if they like the experience of, certainly they like the experience of getting the money, but the experience of having someone else be in their home?
Well, I mentioned that 20% are new to renting entirely, but 80% have already rented. So they already have a mindset of renting out their home. And so the approach is we start with 100% of the nights, and then the owner will just book whatever nights they want to use for themselves, and the remainder are available nights to sell. And so we don't start with how many nights do you want us to sell? We start with how many nights do you want to use?
Mhm.
And the remainder is what we sell. or do our best to sell. And so every property that we add starts with the total of 365 nights and gets narrowed down based on what the owner wants to do in terms of personal use.
Interesting. Are there any, I mean, you probably can't guarantee, but do you estimate how much they'll get, and do you factor in vacancy and things like that?
We absolutely do. We have very sophisticated approaches to having homeowners can actually come on our site, enter in their address, and we can create a custom proposal to tell them, based on our data, proprietary data, this is how much you should reasonably expect you could earn. And we even go down to, here's your carrying costs if you have a mortgage, and here's your cap rate effectively that you can earn on your property. Pretty sophisticated and compelling information for a homeowner that's trying to decide whether or not to rent, or in the case that they already are renting, they either are doing it themselves or they're renting it through a property manager, like a local property manager. In the case of a local property manager, we make 21% more on average the first year for a homeowner, and then another 10% the next year that they're on the platform, because we further optimize the pricing for that particular property. So we just flat out make more money for the homeowner. And you mentioned guarantee. In those cases, we can actually guarantee them that they'll at least make as much as they did with their prior property manager. On top of that, you get all these technology benefits like dashboards and an app for managing and all the statistics that you could ever want, and help with compliance and tax reporting. So the sophistication that we bring to the table is great. People also want to know, can I make more money? And the answer is a resounding yes. And if they do it themselves, it's even more compelling, because if you factor in their own opportunity costs, will make them 5 times the income that they can make it themselves. And they don't have to answer that call at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Which is a very important factor.
It's
I think
compelling,
I think another important factor that you mentioned is tax concerns. That's something I've heard from people, is that they're concerned about the IRS rules about second home ownership versus rental property ownership. How does Vacasa help with that?
Well, I mean, the rules are the rules relative
Yes.
to taxation. We help by making sure that there's really clean and easy reporting. The reality is, if somebody's coming on and deciding to rent out their property, the overall amount of money that we can generate for them is very meaningful. And it helps them more and more. In many cases, people are factoring that into their purchasing decision. We just did a rental home buyer report that we just published, and 75% of the people that are looking for a second home right now, it's their first second home. And that's up from like 49% back in 2019. So it's a meaningful jump up of people looking for second homes. And I know you're very familiar with the prices of homes in general, but second homes in particular have just skyrocketed. So what's great is that homeowners are actually able to take into consideration now the income that they can generate from renting it out, and decide, oh, maybe I can afford that $1 million home, and be more competitive in my offer and getting the property.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting factor. One of the things that I've definitely followed is resort destination prices have just went crazy last year. Demand dropped, demand in those markets and time on market in those types of places tends to be a little slow. Not last year. Wow, it went really fast. And part of that was this whole kind of, not just second home, they called it, like last year, the buzzword was co-primary homes, where people are sort of living in both. So I think that is a factor as well.
For sure. We're seeing that as well.
Well, let's talk about the technology and how you kind of wrangle it all together, because you've got the bookings, and you've got bookings on multiple platforms, and then you've got cleaning, which became an even more important factor last year. How does Vacasa kind of wrangle all those pieces together?
Well, I mean, at our core, we're a technology company. There's no way this works at scale on a national level without having an incredibly strong technology platform, because we have both centralized functions, and we have most of our team is out in the field. They're local to each market that we operate in. And so in order to do that, we build technology platform. We had to build everything ourselves. there wasn't anything we could buy. I would have been fine buying some stuff, but we couldn't. We had to build everything because there wasn't anything that was meant to scale to the level that we've now scaled to, and have aspirations to scale at many, many times our current size. So we built a proprietary system that allows us to serve three real constituents. One is ourselves, our operations team, making sure that we can think about the way that Uber routes their drivers around in a really sophisticated manner. We have the same approach with our home care team. We use predictive clean time and analytics to understand drive time, et cetera. Who needs to be where at what time in order to create the amount of cleaning that needs to happen in any given day, in any given market. And we not only have technology for our own people, obviously we have technology for our homeowners and our guests as well. What's great about it is what we build for one really benefits the other as well. So building a great app that helps with detailed checklists of, the kitchen needs to be staged this way with before and after pictures that get reviewed dynamically in real time leads to the guest walking in. Oh, the kitchen looks great. And that's a part of the journey towards a 5-star review. Well, a 5-star review by the guest benefits the homeowner because they're going to make more money the more 5-star reviews they have. They're going to be more in demand their property. So it's this great connected tissue that we've applied this technology platform to each constituent, and the sum of the parts is really driving the business.
You mentioned before true yield technology, and now you just mentioned Uber. So that makes me think about dynamic pricing and how you think about pricing, not just for holidays and things like that, but sort of tracking overall demand. How does Vacasa deal with that?
I'm glad you raised it because it's probably the part of the technology that is most evident for our homeowners because it drives that outperformance relative to other options that they have to managing their property. It's an incredibly sophisticated machine learning AI based. We post basically 10 to 12 updates per day to our algorithms that all go towards how do you price appropriately, not just on our own channel, but on simultaneously on every single other channel. And we do multiple, A/B testing on every channel. We know, okay, what picture resonates better on Airbnb versus Vrbo versus Booking versus, any other site, and even what copy, what text. So there's a lot of sophistication in how you price, but ultimately it's not about getting the most revenue for any given one night. It's about selling through the most nights at the highest effective rate that you can achieve for all of those nights. So it's about revenue per available night is ultimately what we're striving for, just like hotels focus on RevPAR, revenue per available room.
So in terms of things like maintenance, is that done through Vacasa, or are you contracting with other companies all around the US?
Well, maintenance, it starts with us being present all the time and doing inspections on the homes. So we run a detailed inspection process where we go through every single element of the home from a guest perspective. What things that would they potentially get impacted by? And then we come up with our list of things that need to get addressed. Some of the things, if it's super easy, we just take care of ourselves. If there's other things that require more of a maintenance or a repair, we'll either have our own maintenance tech or we'll subcontract that out. The homeowner pay for repairs to their properties, maintenance of their property, but we facilitate understanding what needs to happen, and in many cases, referring them to a resource to get that to happen.
Is there anything that the owner has to put in terms of smart home technology, or is that something that Vacasa does? Are you looking at smart locks and things like that?
Right. Well, we just completed the acquisition of the number 2 in this category, Turnkey, in April. And Turnkey, there's several great things about that deal for us, but one of which is every one of their homes was fully smart home enabled. That was their playbook, is to do it that way. And we're going to take that same playbook and expand it to all of our homes as well. So we currently have smart locks, for example, in all of the turnkey properties and some of the Vacasa, legacy Vacasa. We're going to roll that out throughout our portfolio and other smart home technologies as well, all of which really helps the guest and the homeowner have a better experience.
So for last year with the pandemic, how did that impact the company, and how did you think about things like hygiene and the concerns of guests?
Well, one of the things of just being a professional manager, we always took that stuff very seriously. It's sort of what we do at our core in terms of the care, the home care part. So there wasn't a significant difference that, new operations that we had to put in place. There was enhancements clearly with PPE and et cetera, and different sanitation elements that we added. So we created Vacasa Premium Clean to really address some of the enhancements that were being required. But that is going to be, I call it the new normal, but that is just table stakes again, just like having Wi-Fi, having a really thoughtful and consistent approach to making the homes clean and sanitized appropriately is just table stakes from our perspective. But it is something that's hard to pull off at scale. It's very operationally logistics heavy. And so that's just another advantage by having put our technology platform in place in order to facilitate making it all happen.
Excellent. Let's talk about the company a little bit. You're getting ready to go public. You recently released your earnings, which we talked about earlier. You had a net loss of 17 million. How are you starting to think about profitability and expansion at the same time?
Well, so yes, we had a net loss, and that includes a lot of one-time costs, legal costs, accounting costs, getting ready to go public. We focus very much on adjusted EBITDA, in which case that was a positive number versus the negative that we thought. We were 9 million positive in our adjusted EBITDA. We were planning to be about 7 million negative for the quarter. So our overperformance in the second quarter revenue basically almost all went, 16 of the 20 million overperformance versus our targets went to adjusted EBITDA, good flow through there. So in terms of prioritization, our prioritization is on growth and investing in that growth right now. A significant portion of our expenses is aligned towards adding new properties to our platform. So over 50% of our sales and marketing line, for example, is all about adding new properties. So profitability is really a choice. Like, when do you want to maximize profitability versus investing in growth? And we're so early in this opportunity that we're all in on growth. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to triple our investment in R&D, just as an example. But we are reaching a certain scale that, despite the investments that we plan to make in the future growth, we still plan to be adjusted EBITDA profitable in 2023. So just a couple of years from now. While we're building a pretty significant platform, just the pure scale of the business that we're operating at now is going to drive profitability to the business.
Are you thinking about any other acquisitions like Turnkey to kind of boost what you're doing?
No, because there's really no other platform of scale like Turnkey. That was sort of the last. We had done Wyndham Vacation Rentals North America business back in 2019. And then earlier this year, we did Turnkey, but there really isn't another scaled player out there. There are regional players, and part of our growth plan is adding units or adding properties to our platform through a direct sales team, which we call our individual approach. But part of it is our portfolio approach, where we buy smaller property managers and bring those homes onto our platform. So that's definitely a consistent part of our growth in terms of platform. But we differentiate that from significant large acquisitions, which Wyndham and Turnkey were.
I'm wondering, because we've seen build to rent happening in the single family rental long-term space. Do you think we're going to see that with short-term single family rentals too?
Well, there's some of that is happening already, where there's some projects that are kicked off and some projects that are in play there. I think that they're more urban,
Yeah.
than rural. But I do think that is we're seeing more of that. It's not a significant part of our growth plan or our growth engine, but we're great partners for people that want to do that, because we bring two things. One is data about where they should do this, because we have all of the data about where the revenue is. And then secondly, we actually can just make it all turnkey for them, right? They just hand over the property management part, the platform, the technology over to us. So they can really not have to build any kind of expertise in the operating of these units.
That makes me wonder, are you vetting properties when they come on? Are there second homes that maybe aren't right for Vacasa based on the neighborhood or things like that? Is there an analysis portion that happens there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are definitely some properties that just would not be good fits for the company. But there's so many others. We're less than 1% penetrated against the 5 million second homes in the US alone. So there's plenty of prospects to go after that we certainly, if there's a property that just doesn't look like we can get it there, meaning, change out the decor or make sure that it's got the right amenities at the right quality level that guests would appreciate, and we'll just pass and we'll move on to the next one.
So how much of that is there like a target line? Like, is it like, okay, maybe the paint is wrong or maybe it's styled wrong? Like, is it a question of how much would need to be done? And does that responsibility then kind of fall on the homeowner?
It's a little bit easier than that. I mean, generally, it's a geographic cut that would say this destination is a great destination. And then if there's a property that's within that, it's real estate, right? Location, location, location. So
Always.
you really start with location, and almost most properties will work if they're in the right location. If there's some specific deficits to the unit appearance, we'll work with the homeowner and say, here's why you want to change out that sofa, right? Because you're going to just make more money, way more than the cost of a sofa. And we just give the data that allows it, just like we do with hot tubs, for example, right? We can demonstrate with data that if you put a hot tub in a ski area, you're going to make more money because you can rent it out at a higher rate and it's going to be more desirable. So there's things along those lines that we can and do as part of our overall sales process and our onboarding process.
So is that onboarding process, it sounds like it's really hands-on. Is the desire to start making that kind of automating parts of that a little bit, or will it always be a kind of person-intensive process?
Well, it's definitely, there's a significant amount of it that is automated right now, where the homeowner participates in the process of setup of the properties. Just giving us some core data information, getting a really big head start for our onboarding specialists to complete the parts that we want to. Ultimately, we send somebody into every unit before we go live. And principally what we're doing there too is obviously addressing any issues that we need to come up, to fix. But more importantly, we're taking really cool high res photos and we're making sure that, the linens are right. And we do a 3D Matterport tour of every property. So we send our folks in to do those type of things.
Speaking of Matterport, that makes me think about companies going public via SPAC. There's been a little bit of talk about there maybe being too many SPACs, but why was this the right choice for Vacasa?
Yeah, ultimately, I think the end game is the same, right? We're going to be a public company, and we're going to have VCSA as the ticker symbol. And so you get to the same place, whether you go traditional or direct listing or you go SPAC. The journey is different for sure. And so what did we get in the process of working with TPG Pace Solutions? Really, it's about TPG themselves. I mean, the experience of the team that we were working with has just been tremendous. Carl Peterson's co-founder of Hotwire, The deep travel, but also the deep marketplace and technology expertise was and is a very attractive element of what we got. More than just capital, we're going to get great partners for the long term, and we think that matters quite a bit. What I would say is our SPAC looks a lot different than many. We're really it's a pretty low float. There's no selling shareholders and there's no warrants. So in so many ways, I think it's very attractively priced valuation wise. And so if you think about a traditional IPO, this looks about as close to a traditional IPO as you can get for all those elements and for all those reasons.
Fantastic. Thank you. You've talked about Airbnb earlier. We talked about Uber. One of the things that makes me think about is individual city regulations. We've seen that with Airbnb happening in vacation towns. How does that impact you, and what type of work do you have to do in that space? Are you advocating along with Airbnb in certain markets?
Absolutely. I mean, we have a team of folks that are about sort of local advocacy, as you would imagine, is an important component of our business. But what's great for us is, we're fine with regulation, sensible regulation, and we're not actually seeing any kind of increase in that. I've been on the board since 2018, and one of my thoughts was, well, is that going to be a big deal? And we haven't seen any increase in volume on it. I think what you're seeing is people are. We want to just be great neighbors. At the end of the day, it's just good business to be great neighbors, and so just sensible regulations and sensible approaches to just coexisting within neighborhoods, it's just the right thing to do. And so we support all of those elements of it. And frankly, we're positioned to do it, whereas some others are not. They're not positioned to really provide the type of support to the neighborhood that we are, because we have both a centralized team and we have a local team, and we use the technology like noise monitoring in the house, those type of things that just help us provide a great experience.
So a couple of times here, you've mentioned this idea of this local team. So I'm wondering, as you expand out, do you have to have boots on the ground in every single market? Are people covering a region? And what is the staffing like for those different markets?
Well, we absolutely need to have presence in every market that we're in, because we service the home in between reservations, and we make sure that we get it set up appropriately, and then make sure that we're doing ongoing inspections so the quality of the product is really good. So we'll always have a significant local presence. It's a competitive advantage, honestly, because it's a moat, if you will, around the business, because it's really hard to pull off running an operational local operations business. My OpenTable experience taught me that as well. So I think we'll always have that. We do rely on both our own employees and also contract resources to do some of the servicing of the properties. And we use our technology platform to manage both resources in terms of providing them the tools to do their job.
Okay, you mentioned that you were previously the CEO, or you didn't mention, you said OpenTable, but you were the CEO. There are similarities. What do you see as the similarities, and what do you see as the differences between the two experiences for you?
A lot. I mean, it was a blast running OpenTable because it's a beloved brand that solved a real problem. Right? It was a pain to make a restaurant reservation, and now you can do it in like 2 seconds. What the parallels are is OpenTable focused on an operationally complex local supply-based business model, and that's what Vacasa is doing. Like, it's when you really address, it's a playbook that others have run as well. Like DoorDash has run it, Uber has run it, some of these other local marketplaces have run it. And so, but what you get when you solve these real pain points for the supplier, in our case, the homeowners, is you're actually rewarded with exclusive rights to the availability that you create by bringing that supply online. And that's very defensible, because for other people to do it, they have to invest in doing all that local work and local operations work. So I love supply side businesses or supply focused businesses. I just think they have a lot of benefits from a marketplace perspective. So that's one of the main differences, similarities I see. The difference is Whereas OpenTable, we did some of the hospitality because I would argue that part of your dining experience starts at the booking. Was it easy? Okay, it was easy. That I'm already having a good time with choosing to go out to eat. But that's kind of where we left, because even though we had great technology for the maitre d' or the host to greet you and say, Deirdre, thanks for coming back in again. I really appreciate that. We weren't actually saying that. We weren't the people in the restaurant saying that. So we were really dependent on the hospitality for the diners, was just our restaurant partners, which they did an amazing job at. But for what's cool about Vacasa is it's all us. So we're not only facilitating the booking, but we're actually the people that ensure that it is actually a great experience. We're the people that you'll see or you won't see because you're out enjoying yourself behind the scenes, but making sure that that property is really set up for you to have a memorable vacation.
So I know one of the things that you're looking to do once you're a public company is going global. That's a massive thing. How are you planning to do that? What steps do you have to do, and which markets are you focusing on first?
Well, there's no immediate term plans to go international above the sort of geographies that we're in right now. My prior experience has taught me that it's a lot of work. There's a lot of complexity. It's not just about going into another state. It's just a whole nother world in some cases, right? With compliance, labor laws, you name it, customs, patterns of travel. So the one thing that I'm very optimistic about when we do go into these markets is that we will have made the investment in our technology platform and processes that, although we'll need to change the processes, we will have the strength of our technology platform to go in and really have a unified approach to how we run the business in these international geographies. And I think that's going to be a very big competitive advantage. I don't know how we will do it because it's not in the intermediate plans here. We might go in through acquisition. We might go in through just de novo and doing it ourselves. Not really sure yet, because we just haven't, all of the forecasts that we've shared as part of this process of going, taking the company public have all been, just domestic focused.
Wondering, as second home owners age or want to sell their property, is that something that Vacasa is involved in? Do you have homeowners coming to you and asking to help sell the property?
Yeah, interesting. People don't generally know that we have a whole real estate side of the business. So we have our own brokerage and we have our real estate agents. And then we also work with, we call it our expert real estate network, which is over 3,000 real estate agents, where we can help them position a property for either sale or purchasing a property they just put in their address of the property, and then we'll put a whole report together and they can put their logo up there. So effectively we stay in that transaction, that purchase and or sale transaction, because we want to continue to have that relationship with existing customers once the home sells, right? It's a way to mitigate attrition. Or if it's a brand new property that isn't on our platform already, we'd like it to be on our platform. So to the extent that we're helpful in that sales transaction, we believe that it'll help earn the right to participate in the management of that home for vacation rentals going forward.
How are you thinking about ESG issues? Obviously, you're in a lot of resort communities. You're dealing with things like sea level rise and things like that. How is that a factor for Vacasa as you think about new markets and existing markets?
Yeah, it's a great question, and what I think is, it's very different for me because in my career, having taken a couple of companies public, it wasn't a thing in terms of highlighted or spotlighted, and now it's very much. And I think it's great. I think it's awesome. So we're working through our ESG platform approach, protocols, processes, dynamically right now. So I think though the nice thing is that I mentioned being good neighbors before. We're local. We're in the communities that we serve. So we have a very big interest in making each one of the communities that we serve in be as successful as possible. And our overall ESG will contemplate that local element as well.
In terms of ESG, obviously there's climate change. Do you also think about things like the types of cleaning supplies or different ways to make a house safer for fires or things like that?
That's right. I mean, that's all the elements that go into the overall plan or the process that we have. And we've always been trying to be very thoughtful about what supplies that we use for the reasons that you just mentioned. And then there's the balance of all of that is, COVID and sterilization, and it's just you've got both tension points right now. But those elements, as well as many others, we're just kind of pulling together as we speak in kind of an overall comprehensive ESG.
One of the things that Airbnb has had to deal with is the things like house parties and other issues like that. Has any of that impacted Vacasa? Has that been a factor for you?
I mean, it happens. When you're in the business that we're in, you're going to have instances. So we just do everything that we can, both on screening on the front end, or making sure that we look for patterns, or if there's any kind of behavior that looks or triggers flags in our system, we try to prevent the reservation from even happening. Like I mentioned, there's noise monitoring in many of our homes that allows us to do simple things like just send a text saying it looks like it's getting a little loud. I want to quiet down. So. And then we have our local teams and our processes and approaches to dealing with any kind of escalations that would come up. So it's a very rare issue that we face, given the how many nights that we sell. I think it was that we have millions of nights that are going to be sold this year, like 5 million nights sold this year. It's very, very, very teeny percentage. But when it happens, you want to learn from it and say, okay, how do we add extra technology first and foremost to try to mitigate any kind of situation coming up in the future?
Does the amount of engagement that the individual homeowner has with Vacasa kind of vary? Do you have some homeowners who are very interested and others who are very hands-off?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, you would just as you would expect, different personalities. There's some people that want to know what's happening every minute of the day, and there's some homeowners that are just, I'm going to book it these 2 weeks and just write me the check for the other period of time. And so there's a broad spectrum of personas for our homeowners for sure. What is a universal theme though is, and that's what our technology is so great at, is there's an awareness desire. Like, what is going on with my home? And so there's simple things that we can do by using technology like smart locks, et cetera, that we can actually give them notifications. Somebody just entered your home, right? And you'd be surprised that they don't want to do anything about that, but they love knowing it. And they love knowing that we just cleaned their home, or we just, fix this one thing. That there's just engagement through communication, through technology, and that loop is really what drives very high, NPS for us, for our owners.
Interesting. So, are you monitoring NPS on the homeowner side and then also on the guest side? And
Yes.
and what does that look like?
We didn't share the specific numbers
Okay, I
on it,
understand that.
but we think they're really good and industry leading for sure. And by the way, I think the most important number that you didn't mention is our employee NPS,
Oh,
because
yes.
our belief is that should be the highest number of the three, because there's a high correlation to engaged and happy team members and how the other constituents feel about their experiences with our business. So we monitor each one of those on a regular basis and have very detailed tactical ways to address how can we make it higher? How can we get it better? So that the business is going great. We're in a great category and we're operating really, really well, but we all believe we can always get better. And that surveying and that measurement is a simplistic tool, but it's helpful to understand how people think we're doing.
Well, I love that you mentioned the Net Promoter Score for employees because I think that's fantastic. Makes me wonder about about staffing. I know staffing has been an issue for a lot of hospitality, a lot of restaurant. You're probably hearing a lot about that. How has staffing issues been like for you at Vacasa?
Yeah, I will say that it was something that there was a reasonable amount of concern entering into this summer because it's hard to hire team members at the scale and the size that we needed to. And also we had our internal projections about what the second quarter and even this quarter we're in right now would look like. But our approach was, if here's our forecast, we're going to do 20% more. We're going to staff to, a higher percentage than that because we just can't be wrong, right? Like, because we have to, if the demand comes in at the higher level, which it ends up it's doing, we wanted to make sure we had enough resources there. So we hired thousands of people over a 2-month period of time. Just to give you some context. And our team just killed it. Like, I think our central recruiting team, I think we have a great employee value proposition. They just killed it. And we definitely had probably one of our best summers ever in terms of staffing. With the backdrop that you just mentioned, I think that's pretty awesome.
So, do the individual markets kind of work almost like a company of their own, where you've got sort of kind of one person or a group of people in charge of all of the different components that you need?
It's a hybrid, I would say. We have centralized management and operations, and then we also and marketing and revenue management is more centralized. Sales is both local and centralized. So it's a hybrid but most of our employees, probably 80% of the team is in market. They're out and not centralized in any kind of office or even out remote work setting. So I wouldn't say that there's the right balance in my perspective of the ability to tailor your service to the needs of a local market, but also having a consistency across all markets of what does the Vacasa brand stand for and what does the Vacasa experience mean? So how do we deliver a consistency so that when Deidre goes to do another vacation, if you stayed at one Vacasa property, you have a sense of, then you stay at the next one, there'll be some core elements that you can count on.
Interesting. So, is there a loyalty factor within Vacasa itself, sort of underneath the like Airbnb? You're sort of accustomed to staying at Airbnbs. Do you find that people then want to stay in Vacasa properties, and are there plans to sort of develop out loyalty around that?
Yeah, we absolutely see a repeat rate for people that have stayed in a Vacasa property. And I think some of the technology that we've built is, if you think about our guest application, mobile application, its primary purpose is to support the in-stay experience. So this is things like, the digital lock. You can just use the app to get in the front door. You don't have to get some weird lockbox. You can get on Wi-Fi right away. You can message us and say, something's up, I need some help here. You can, ultimately there'll be a number of other features like requesting a late checkout through the app, very much what you would see in a hotel app. So our focus is to build out a robust hospitality-based application for the guests. And our belief is, if you've had a great rental experience with Vacasa, both powered by the technology, but also by the people, the service that you get, you'll have a general preference for choosing a Vacasa managed property in the future.
So, as part of the plan to get people, not to get people away from Airbnb, but to get them to be Vacasa first and book directly through your app versus going to another app?
It's not it's not the last part. It's more, absolutely. We'd want them to have a preference for a Vacasa managed property, and we work very hard to deliver high quality experiences so that they do have that preference. But we feel like we have to earn that each and every day, right? We don't just assume that we can, if they had one great experience, that they're going to prefer us going forward. So every experience is an opportunity for us to earn that loyalty and earn that brand. Our job is to maximize value for homeowners, pure and simple. And in order to do that, we aggressively and market across every platform, including our own. So we try really hard to sell the nights on our own property, and we try really hard to sell it on Airbnb and Booking and Vrbo. Equally as hard. Like there's no preference. Like we're trying very hard to sell through the nights for our homeowners. And so to be a really good partner for homeowners, having a strong direct site is important. And it actually helps us sell more properties because they look at our website and say, wow, they've got a great website in and of themselves. In addition, they have all this sophisticated technology to price and route to all the distribution partners.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Last question as we wrap up. What does success look like for you and the Vacasa team in 5 years?
I think it's a little bit of more the same. Because the market is so huge. I mean, 5 years is going to seem like we'll make great progress, but we'll still be small relative to the market. I mean, we're 1% against the 5 million just in the US. You mentioned international. We could certainly see ourselves in international markets within that period of time. But we have a great business. We have a great business model. We're in the right category, hottest product in travel. We're doing the supply side thing, which is the most constrained part of the entire ecosystem. We're unlocking real value for the entire ecosystem, distribution partners, homeowners, guests. So just sort of more of the same, but doing it even better is really what I hope you would see in 5 years when we get back together.
All right. Well, Matt, thanks so much for your time. Reminder to listeners, it's vacasa.com. Go check it out. There are beautiful vacation rentals. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.